Hi friends, welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, my name is Ojuolape. I'm a medical doctor, a writer, and a generally curious person. So today I will be doing a facts about me, bookish facts about me tag. I got this idea from Marie. Yes, Marie the singer. It turns out that she's a huge bookworm. So she did this tag and she kind of opened it up. So I'm catching it and I will also be tossing it to someone at the end of this video. So please stay tuned. Anyway, let's get into the video. The first fact is that I am a huge book sniffer. Yes, please don't call the police. I love the smell of books. I don't even know if there's a word for it. There's probably a word for it, but they just smell so divine. They just smell really, really good. Some of them. Second one is that I still read comics. Yes, comics are books too, I beg. Sometimes you just don't want the mental engagement of actually reading a book and visualizing the characters and the places, and comics just do that for you already. And I know some people will argue that a comic isn't an actual book. Well, I said what I said. So when I was younger, I used to actually write out words I didn't know inside an exercise book, like a notebook, because I didn't want to be interrupted while reading. And so later on in the day, I would pick up the book and go and cross-check the words in the dictionary. Though when I was reading, I would have to just come up with a contextual meaning, and sometimes I was right. I think most times I was probably right, but then sometimes I was so opposite, and then I'd have to sometimes go back and look for that sentence so that I can just fit in the meaning of that word. Thank God for technology, because now when I'm reading on my iPad, I just highlight the word and I can look it up right there and then. So the very first book I read is Supergirl. She was Superman's cousin, and I'm really happy now in hindsight that was the first book I read, because it was such an adventurous read. It's probably one of the reasons why I'm so fascinated with like otherworldly, interplanetary, astronomy type vibes. It was such a surreal read, and I'm happy that was the first book I read, because I finished that book and I was like, wow, where have books been all my life? So I'm happy that my very first experience with books was a very pleasant one. I don't read romantic books. I know that, I don't have anything particularly against that genre, except sometimes I feel like the writing can be a bit lazy. I'm sorry. But if I'm going to read something like with romantic whatever in it, it has to have some comedy at least. At the very least, be funny. Which brings me to my next point, and that is the only book I remember crying to is Me Before You by Jojo Moyes, which is a romantic book. I don't know why, the story just really touched me. And that's why when I watched the movie, I didn't cry, because hello, I already knew what was going to happen. I used to be obsessed with series, so much so that I used to write series. So when I was younger, when I say when I was younger, I mean in my teenage years, because I started reading at the age of 10. And I started writing like 12, 13. So I would actually type out my stories and print them out, because we had a desktop computer and printer in the house, and I would actually write them out and print them out. And I loved making series, but the one and only novel that I wrote was about 150 pages of those 60 leaves exercise books, and the book was titled The Black Widower's House, or The Black Widower, or The Black Widow, or something like that. And I can't even remember what it was about, but I remember the title. And I borrowed my classmates in secondary school back then, but then they moved out of their house and she never returned it, so #forever lost. This also leads to my next fact. I think I'm the only science student that took literature classes, and This is actually unheard of in my school because you have to be in the arts class to take literature. But someone who I still don't know happened to show the literature teacher one of the short stories that I wrote. And then he just insisted that I join their class. He said that I don't have to take their exams, I don't have to do their assignments, I don't have to do their tests. I should just listen in the class. And I'm actually kind of glad I did because it helped me with my literature knowledge. So it helped me with like their terminologies, for example, sonnets, types of poems. Like I wouldn't know those things just from reading books necessarily. So I'm happy that I took them, but I think I eventually stopped the classes at like SS2. The next fact is that I actually judge books by their covers. Yes, I know, you're not supposed to, but some books, their covers just look so good, and you can just imagine the beautiful story that is behind that cover, and you just want to read it. I am one of those people that read all the Harry Potter books, as huge as they were. I read every single one of them, and it was so well written. Like, I'm not even going to lie, I can't remember the storyline word for word. Like, I can't remember every single thing, but I just know that it was so well written and everything kind of connected, and I still went on to watch the movies. Contrary to what it might seem like, I actually don't really like doing book recommendations because I feel like the human taste is so vast and so dissimilar and so different that it's hard to really recommend a book because you liked it to somebody else. That said, I'm probably not going to stop recommending books because I just enjoy some books so much that I really want to share them and hope that people will enjoy them as well. Another anecdote, I used to save up my 250 naira per week pocket money just so I could buy a book at the end of the month. So that comes to about 1,000 naira at the end of the month. And because I'm such a frugal person, I would be able to save it. Sometimes I'd even borrow my sister's and collect it back with interest and then go to the bookshop. There was a bookshop somewhere and they already even knew me there. And it's just so funny because I remember looking at some of those books that were like 2.5 and 3K, and I was like, God, when will I ever be able to afford these books? I stopped reading for about 2 years, yes, during medical school because I just became very disillusioned with books. I don't know if medical school had anything to do with it, but to be honest, if I had time to watch American Dad, then it wasn't because I was extremely busy. I don't know, for some reason, I just kind of wasn't really into them for a while, so I definitely had to fall in love with books all over again, and maybe I'll talk about that in a separate video. I read multiple books at once because I literally cannot decide. The older I get, the more I don't finish crap books. And I was one of those people that always wanted to finish a book just because I had started it. But honestly, it's fine to not finish a book if it doesn't really follow your vibe anymore. And time is money. Oddly enough, I don't really mind book spoilers. Movie spoilers, I mind a lot. But for books, I don't really mind. I don't know why. I don't really mind as much. I probably don't want you to tell me the end of the book, but even if you told me, I wouldn't be as upset as if it was a movie. I think books are a very participatory form of art. You get to create those characters in your head and see them in your head. So it's more about the journey of the book and the experience of the book, and less so about the end. The end is important, but it's not so much about the end. If there is a bookstore near me, give them a month. The owner is going to know me. I think I'm actually a fast reader, in my opinion. I always carry a book whenever I travel, which is funny because I never read it. I'm always very distracted by the scenery. Like, I'm more distracted by the road, but I just like the comfort of the option of having a book, even though I know I'm most likely not going to read. Another thing is, I seem to prefer ebooks these days because I'm in such a transitory period in my life. I'm moving from one place to the other, and so just lugging around a couple of books with me everywhere I go just isn't very pleasant. So I prefer ebooks these days because it's all in one place. I can be a very audible reader. If you saw me reading in my elements, all the gasps, all the wows, yeah, I can be very visceral in my reaction. If I really like a book, I am going to e-stalk the author. I am going to find every single interview that the person granted, every single book that they ever wrote, every quote that they ever said. I am just going to stalk the hell out of them. I don't fully imagine characters in my head, like give them a way they look, a specific look. I don't do that. But if a movie adaptation of the book came out and I see the actor, I would know if they fit my idea or not. You feel? I don't know, it's weird, but it's not like I pictured the character this particular way. But if I see someone who acts that character, I'm like, no, not really. But I was obsessed with Sweet Valley High in secondary school. I kept this one for last. Please don't unsubscribe. But I dog ear my books. Yeah, I'm sorry, I have bookmarks, but I was one of those people that used to want my books to look pristine and look immaculate and just be perfect. But I realized that I'm spending money on these things and they are mine. And when I started to get some books that were autographed by the authors, I realized that this book is mine. Enjoy the book, live in the book. Life is short. C'est la vie. Okay, so that's the video. I had so much fun filming this. I want to tag my good friend. She's a medical student and a fellow YouTuber, Sola. I will leave her channel link in the description box below. Follow me on Instagram and Twitter for more day-to-day living and see what I'm reading, I guess. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. Take care, friends. Bye. Might just pull up in a Benz. Might just